Sam, come on. You look at Pittsburgh.
Guys, okay, Matt. I get it.
I want to say that my dog.
It's another week, yes, and it's another Matt's Madness. I obviously am not Matty Travisano. I don't know if the beard gave that away or the fact that I am a human male. But I digress. I am Brendon Hodges. You probably know that because you watch/listen to The Review, our flagship podcast, by the way. Subtle Flex, new episode coming out this weekend. I can guarantee that after a short hiatus. But I'm not going to waste time. We all have stuff we got to get to. And this is a quick hitting show. It's Matt's Madness, mainly Maddie's Madness that she has to deal with, but you know what I mean. Let's introduce our two guests on this lovely, it's a Friday afternoon right now. This will be coming out later over the course of the weekend, I believe. Starting with the man whose confidence is in his team, well, it's overshadowed by no one else. And sometimes that confidence is lackluster because one disappoints him during the season only to exceed expectations and then come crashing down during the tournament. The other one exceeds his expectations early and then falls flat in their face in the first round of the Big East tournament. Yes, not the NCAA tournament. He is Seton Hall and Syracuse basketball fan Matt Mlodzinski, namesake of the show. Our second guest, well, I don't really know what team is his favorite. It could be Virginia, could be Ohio State, could be Texas for all I know. It could be Drake. He has like 7 teams, and today he's wearing a Christmas tree polo with all his flags in the background. He's back for winter break. He is Samuel Bass, who is also a lot bigger than me, and I apologize for any insults that I may throw either of your ways, though I could probably take both of you. Guys, welcome in. Let's just get started. Let's get right into it. Biggest story this week, and well, 2 weeks ago, the biggest story was who should be the new number one. I don't think we have an answer for that now because there's no consensus number one, at least in my mind. If you've seen our Instagram lately for the fans, you can follow that at CBB Review, by the way. Our latest post, teams currently in a COVID pause, and we have 9 teams listed there. There are going to be more teams on that list. Breaking today, obviously, Syracuse postponing their 2 games coming up this weekend. So that list is going to expand. But the question now is if the season's going to go on in its full capacity. We'll start with Sam here. Should the NCAA consider suspending, not necessarily canceling, but suspending the season?
Yeah, I think that this is territory that, although not uncharted, is something that we never expected to endure again. And, you know, it sucks. College basketball fans want to see college basketball. They want to see every single game played. But with that being said, I think if the NCAA wants to have a March Madness, have conference tournaments, it's the smart thing to just suspend the season. 2 weeks, you have off, let people go home, see their families, chill out by themselves. I mean, you don't really gain anything from playing through this early conference play, non-conference play, just to have more COVID pauses throughout the year and lead to a possible cancellation of the NCAA tournament. Nobody wants that. Obviously, no one wants a suspended season now at all, but to put it in now is just the smart decision for the NCAA so that they can have that March Madness, those conference tournaments, the season of college basketball that people really tune into and really care about.
You know, Sam, I totally see your point there. And I do understand it because, you know, you suspend the season and then you hope that everyone does the right thing. Everyone quarantines, maybe the NCAA figures something out, and then you get back on track. I just don't know if that's really going to happen. I mean, you see how quickly this is ramped up. I feel like we're going to be dealing with this Omicron variant for a while, and I just don't know if suspending the season is the answer. I totally see it as an idea, but I just feel like the NCAA needs to come up with a way to maybe limit the COVID protocols a bit. I don't know. Again, some of these universities are private. Whether or not these players are COVID positive or if they just came in contact with someone seems to be kept private a lot. And I can't question that. But what I can question is, okay, are these restrictions a little bit too much? And could we be playing some of these games that are not being played? Because right now, No one's saying anything about fans not being able to enter the court. It's just about the players and the teams being on COVID pauses. Like, I have not heard anything from anyone that said, okay, we're going to start limiting fans at games again. It seems like all of that's under control because fans have to wear masks most likely at games and they have to prove that they're vaccinated. So I don't see what the difference is if players are vaccinated and, okay, you make the players throw masks on again. I mean, it's the same difference between, and statistically speaking, players that are in their best shape with masks on, okay, they're breathing on each other during the game. It's the same thing in the crowd. You've got a bunch of fans out there walking through each other, who knows what, and hopefully they have their masks on as well. And I've been to games. A lot of fans, even though they're required to wear masks, don't end up wearing masks, especially in the places where they probably should be, which are the bathrooms at the game, in line for food and things like that. So I know I see your point, but I just feel like suspending the season might not be the best route to go because I don't know what it's going to solve.
Well, an interesting question. You see it on television all the time, and I'm sure they mention it on radio broadcast as well. The masks over the ears, but then pulled down below the nose, below the chin. Players obviously not having to wear masks on the court, and now going on Christmas break where you have a semi 3-day, maybe a little more than that, depending on the program, season suspension, if you want to call it that, because there aren't many games over Christmas Eve. Actually, none at all on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, or really even the day before. So we'll leave it at that. But as we move on to the next topic, we talked about a couple of bigger teams in there. And yes, I know that you guys are big conference snobs based upon your favorite teams. Swords up, roll Scots, let's go. No matter what the NCAA chooses, though, it's going to affect every team, whether you're in a mid-major, whether you're in a power conference. But Sam, does this hurt the mid-majors or power conference teams more?
Although I do have strong feelings about this, I took first time last topic, so I'll give Matt first say on this, and then I'll rebuttal.
How nice of you. How nice of you.
I don't appreciate the niceties here. This is supposed to be a conflictive and aggressive show. I'm very disappointed in your
We'll get there.
performance.
We'll get there.
We'll get there on this. Sam, I think it's the mid-majors, and it's no question because you look at the power conference teams, it's easier for them to travel. It's easier for them to get out and replace a team on their schedule. If one of their opposing teams goes in a COVID pause, it's easier for a UCLA to get out there and schedule another team than it is for Cal State Fullerton. That's just the way that it goes. It's sad. I know that it's all D1 basketball. Everyone's supposed to be on the same level. That's not the way that it's going right now. So I'm going to have to say that the mid-majors are really, right now, this is affecting the mid-majors the most because they don't have as much money in their budgets to be able to schedule if another team goes into COVID pause. And I just think that's the biggest thing right now at hand. I think everyone's on the same plane as COVID goes. But as far as rescheduling these games and trying to get other teams to play you, that's why I see that the mid-majors are in a bit of a rut right now.
So I took a different look at this question when it was sent earlier. I'm not looking at what you're going to do instead of playing certain teams. I'm looking at what if the season's suspended, because if people are pausing games, it's inevitable that you can't predict who's going to suspend their team, their games, whatever. And I think, yes, mid-majors, you want to play basketball, but I can speak for myself, and I know I can speak for our host, Brendon Hodges, when I said when we picked our school to play sports at, sports were not our top priority. And yes, it's a bonus, but we really looked at the school because that's what we're going to do with our lives. You look at guys on powerhouse teams and their season's being suspended, they're not doing anything. You think they're like, oh, I can't wait to go to class. Yes. No, they want to play basketball, and that's all they want to do. You look at coaches, they want to coach their players. They want to get better. And you look at the schools. You know how much money they're losing? That's like, it's millions and millions of dollars. And even if you look at the student body, you pick a big school because you want to go to the sporting events, you want the tailgates, you want the social part of it, and you miss out on all of that. As a mid-major, you still have some of the stuff that you came to school to do. It doesn't rely on the sport itself. The school's economic wealth does not depend on the sports. I feel like just taking basketball out of the equation at a high major is so much more effective or has so much of a bigger effect, than taking it out of a mid-major school.
I understand that, but when you look at the mid-major programs, there's still players on these teams that basketball is their life as well. So I don't think you can just say, oh, power conference is just that. I mean, there's plenty of mid-major schools out there that are doing really well this season, whether they're undefeated on the year, whether they're, I don't know, have 1 or 2 losses, whatever it may be, and they're big time mid-major programs, and they're still in the same position as some of these power conference teams. I mean, Sam,
Well,
you look at Pittsburgh.
guys. Okay, Matt. I get it.
I
You're
just want to
wearing a
say that my
sweater
dog was
today.
so unhappy with your answer that he came in here barking.
Matt, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to sound more official and be more mature by wearing a sweater today, but you're not fooling anybody with it, okay? Either way, the guys love to play basketball, and that is a priority, if not the top priority, wherever they go. I surprised none of you put the NIL twist to this, what money that players may. I don't know if they lose anything from NIL money, like people paying them for appearances or.
I would
like
think they
promoting
would
a
gain it
product or
because
something.
it's more attention paid, but
Yeah,
we could
I
save
mean,
that for another Matt's Madness.
Yeah, it is, and it's something that if a season was suspended or, like in this next topic we're going to do, which is coming in just a moment, canceled, perhaps that maybe they would miss out on those opportunities to promote themselves via the NIL aspect of collegiate athletics. Before we get to that final topic, though, if you like madness, and we all do, that's why we're here. You like March Madness, you like the madness of the early college basketball season, tons of upsets everywhere. You like the madness of Matt going at it with random guys on the staff and thinking he could actually win, as well as the madness that the host has to deal with of figuring out how to shut him up. Then, well, follow our page, cbbreview.com. A lot of great work out there. Matt's putting out top 3 articles about different games. He's editing. He's putting out videos. We're running the podcast. Half an episode coming out this week of the review. Check it out. Or if you just want college basketball content from, a college student or recently graduated college student's point of view, then you've come to the right place. It's cbbreview.com, at cbbreview on social media, Twitter and Instagram. Go check us out. Like our page. We're really pushing out a lot of content right now, and we'd love to hear what you think. We actually got a comment today on that post I mentioned earlier from AnnBanan21. Thank you. She says, I like the visual. Can you post an updated list ahead of the weekend? You should get on that, Mr. Mlodzinski. Anyway, our final topic today, after that very large flex and plug there for our website, I'm really good at this job, let me tell you. Looking ahead, guys, I can make an argument every college basketball season. It turns out to be a good season, at least partially. But every good season, in this instance, ends with a champion cutting down the nets on the floor in Phoenix or San Antonio or one of the other huge, majestic cathedrals of college basketball that's not in Indiana for whatever reason, except for last year. Emphasis on good, because, well, let's remember, March 2020 left us missing that closure, that finality of a college basketball season. And all of us weren't really pleased with that because March Madness is one of the things people mark down their calendars for. It's like spring break for students is March Madness and going to the beach in Miami. That's what it is. Now, this year is trending. We aren't sure where it's trending, right? So, Sam, now that I know you're going first because we're alternating here and you're not going to play the nice guy anymore, wink, wink, is this year trending to another postseason cancellation, or will the NCAA get it figured out by then?
So, obviously I want to argue yes, and I'm going to. I think that the NCAA will have an NCAA tournament. When you look at 2020, there was so much unknown, right? People are coming down with COVID, but what is it? How's it transmitted? How do you fight it? How deadly is it? And then you get into last year, and it's still a problem, but more people are getting vaccinated, which is true now. There's more knowledge about it. And they knew that if they created a bubble environment, then they could have a NCAA tournament, a March Madness. And I think that this year, even if it has to go to bubble format, I do think that there will be a tournament this year. And I don't think there should really be any worry about that.
See,
Even if there is, we know Seton Hall won't be there, right, Matt?
I think they're including the top 16th team in the country, but Sam, I agree with you. I think there will be a March Madness tournament this year for teams. I don't know how many teams it'll be, kind of alluding to that. Because I just saw this on Twitter, and I'm going back on what I said earlier because I didn't know that this is true. Jeff Goodman tweeted out that Northeastern will not allow fans for athletic events for the time being. That continues to bring a lot of money out. If teams don't have fans, they can't collect revenue. And more so, that just goes to show that we are kind of going back to what the 2020 season was. And that was no fans, or the 2021 season, excuse me, which was no fans. It just makes you think, okay, how much further back are we going to go? Because this is probably the biggest lapse in sports we've had since it was canceled in the beginning. And then obviously it started progressively coming back and back and back to the point where we've got fans at games, and it's been going well. I mean, I went to plenty of games for multiple sports, outdoors and indoors this past year, and it's been going well. But I think when you look at all of that, you have to take into consideration the fact that will we have an NCAA tournament? Yes, but who knows if it's going to be exactly how we want the NCAA tournament to be. And that can be tough sometimes because we've all gotten used to exactly how March Madness should feel. COVID nixed that completely in 2020, but it brought it back last year. I know that, fans being at the games, that's one thing. Now we're hoping that fans will be back to normal. I wonder if it's going to nix it again and make it something weird. And it'll just kind of be like, okay, are we going to be comfortable watching March Madness when it's not like we're used to it being like? And again, I don't want to put any weight on that right now. It's what, December? Like we're not even in January yet. But it's just this problem is ramping up. Over the past 3 days, it's just ballooned. I mean, last week over there, maybe one team on COVID pause, and now there's like at least 10, aiming looking towards 20. So
Well, a lot of questions yet to ask and answer. And if you want to hear the answers to those, this is called a tease, by the way. You should come back and watch episodes of Matt's Madness every week. That's all we got for this episode. And because I don't think I'll be back next week, because I would assume Maddie will be available, let me wish you all a very happy holiday. I understand Sam is the only one of us here who is really in any holiday spirit, but we
I don't
are,
even celebrate
let's
Christmas.
see here, check my watch, 8 days away from the Christmas holidays. So happy holidays to everyone out there from all of us here at CBB Review, though I'm sure y'all will say the same thing next week when you're doing this. At the same time, for now, though, I'm Brendon Hodges. That was Matt Mlodzinski and Samuel Bass. Shoddy when it comes to fanning over one team and one team only, let me tell you. But that's why we love the guys. This has been Matt's Madness. Thanks for joining us. And again, check out all of our content on cbbreview.com and follow us on social media at CBB Review. Take care. Have a good weekend.